everyone, it's Trena from John's Furniture Repair in the shop finally after a nice break for Christmas. And the first job we're going to get to is this nice little East Lake dresser, and it has been started by my customer, but she decided she would rather us finish it for her, so that's fine. She's got a couple of areas stripped, but mainly the drawers need to be stripped and everything else needs to be cleaned up a little bit better. The drawers are not working so great. We're going to be going back to a wood finish. We're not going to be painting. So basically we're just going to take it right down to the wood and do all the repairs and get it back to what it was when it was first made. Let's get to work. Okay, so one thing that a lot of you have asked me to do is to show you how to fix drawer slides, and this is the perfect candidate to show you how to do that. I think all the drawers are pretty much destroyed. So if you have an old dresser that you're doing and it's got wooden sides like this, these are the runners on your drawer. And if you look at it from this way, you can see how it kind of curves in here. All of this wood has been worn down over the years of sliding back and forth in the dresser. Both sides are like that. And inside the dresser, let me show you. Inside the dresser, you're gonna find usually a pretty big groove right at the front of the piece. You can see here the wood's being worn away, and then all along the track in the back here there's a giant groove, so we have to add all this wood back here and on the drawer. So another thing that happens when your drawer slides are so worn down, as you can see this one is the second drawer, it also is your bottom drawer bottom starts rubbing on whatever is like these guys, or sometimes there's metal stops that gouge out the bottoms of drawers. But you can see that guy has been rubbing on here, which makes the drawer really hard to open and close, as well rubbing right here. And it breaks these guys down too, so they don't work as well. So again, this second drawer, same thing. Slides, guides need to be repaired, wood put back, and that will stop this problem from happening, because it'll lift that drawer up on the frame. So this is the last drawer I'm working on, so I thought I'd show you guys what I'm doing here. We've got all the front faces stripped. That took quite a long time getting everything out of the grooves. So right here, they've filled it with like a putty, so I'm gonna drill that out and put a plug in. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. The plugs I have aren't the exact match to the grain, but they'll be okay. just a little bit of glue. And if anybody ever wanted to redo and put the original style handle on, which was probably a pull, you could drill this out again. Yeah, that's pretty flush. And then I'm just going to take some putty and fill in around it. There's a little seam there. And that's it for that. Okay, so the other thing that I'm doing is taking off these little wooden escutcheons. Try to get you in closer here. Because behind them, I just cannot get the rest of that glue out. So you can still see a big chunk of cruddy glue there. So I'm just gonna pop it. Anyways, you can see there's a bunch of paint left on this piece as well as on here and in here. So I'm just going to take my scraper and get that off. And then I'll be able to sand that after with everything else nice and with the green instead of having to deal with that situation. So put that aside. I'll have to glue that little crack in that thing. Turn it over. And we'll get the drawer bottom off. One of them had screws, one of them had round pan head nails. This one seems to have one giant nail. So all of them are different. So just one nail, and it looks like this should come out. And the reason I'm doing this is to sand, because they're very dirty inside. And one thing that I always do in my dresser restorations or anything with drawers is refinish the drawers and clean them up, because she does put her clothes in here, so it'd be nice to have it clean. So let's head over to the sanding. Right, so I've just got it here. I'm just going to take my Festool with a 180 grit Mirka sandpaper, and I like these new mesh sandpapers. They've been working pretty good. They were suggested to me a while ago by someone, and I had to use up all my other ones first, but I finally got to buy some of them. I like them. They last a long time, and they cost less than the Festool papers. So I'm just gonna sand every side. Okay, so now I've got it all inside, cleaned up and sanded and everything. And next up we got to deal with these really worn drawer slides on the other side. So you can see here, it kind of dips down off to the back. You might be able to see better on the other side, it's a little worse. So what we've got to do is straighten that all out with a plane and a chisel, and add some new wood back onto the piece. So I'll just be using a piece of pine and cutting it to what we need to do. So to find the actual width that this is supposed to be, I'm gonna get it from the front here because these are supposed to be flush. So this one's supposed to be at 7 5/8. Comes all the way down to 7 3/8. So that's really worn. Other side will be kind of the same thing. So I'm just going to straighten this off. I'm going to start this end here with my chisel. Because the oak is here, it doesn't usually wear as much right at this point before it slides in, and then once it goes past that point, it really digs in. There, so once I've got that off, I'm going to take my plane start taking off some material. There we go. I'll just check it with my piece of wood. That looks like a good lamination. This piece isn't quite wide enough to do it this way. So I'm gonna cut this a little thinner on the table saw. Just gonna make a mark from the front here. I'm gonna leave it a little bit fat because I want to plane it down to a perfect width afterwards. Okay, so I got my piece on the cut on the table saw. So I'll just check the measurement to make sure I've got enough to get it back to the measurement we had. So about 7 5/8. 7 5/8. It's barely gonna need any work done after this is glued on here. So I'm just going to use carpenter's glue. Pop that on. I'm not gonna use too much because I don't want to clean up a bunch of glue globs. This doesn't need a lot. And I'll make it flush with the inside because it's easy to plane off the outside. Get a couple clamps. Yep, and that should be good. So do the same thing to the other side. All right, so I've got the side stripped here and I'm just taking a look at this break and they've added a piece of wood here on the side. Now that I've got it turned over on its side, I can see that this leg's gone through something terrible, rotted out the back. So they've added another leg here and that's not a bad repair. But I don't really like that there's a whole piece here that you can't push the piece up against the wall anymore. So I'm gonna take this off and see what we can do about this. Only 50 nails in here. Okay, here we go. Got that off. So I can see that this whole leg is all rotted out. So I think what I'll do is splice a new wood to the existing leg and get rid of this, just because it's not really how I would do it. It's not a bad repair. It's just not exactly what I want to do with this piece, so all right, so I was just going to take off a little bit of the top, but as it goes, I took off a lot more. So I'm going to make a whole section here. It's going to be kind of difficult because I'm going to have a little piece that comes farther over this way, and then I have to slot it out for here and here as well. So it's just going to be like a million trips to the saw and back. But first we're just gonna get the length so we can cut it out of this piece of oak. We'll make it a little bit longer than it's supposed to, just in case I have to slide it on that angle here. So I'll have to adjust that too. So I'll make it about right there. So that's the first cut I'll make. Okay, so I've got it cut. Looks like it's a pretty good fit here. And now I've got to start taking away material here. So I'm just going to line it up with, it has to go right down there. Maybe I'll do this little notch out here first so I can get it to sit right flat down. Sorry, this one here. So I'm just gonna put this up where I want it to be-ish. And then I'll just mark where that notch is supposed to go. Okay, so I got the notch cut out. Now I'm going to cut out for these other things that I have to leave room for. So I'm just going to make sure that that is flush there-ish. Starts about right here. Comes all the way out to here. No, I don't think she does. All right, so I've got my very weird shaped piece all made to fit over these things and fit into this shape here. So the seam looks pretty good. Not perfect, so I'm gonna use epoxy to glue this guy on, just to take up any voids there might be in there. Oh, drop it all on the floor first. Okay, so I'm not gonna put it on this side because there's tons on here. So I'm just gonna walk it back and forth, get some of that squeeze out going, throw a couple clamps on, and I will have to chop this off, it's long. All right, so this is the last drawer I'm putting back together. We got these all shaved off till they're both sides are nicely 6 7/8 right across all the way to the bottom. So those are good. I'm just gonna pop the back or the bottom back on. I left these markings on the drawers. They all had like a different little marking you can kind of see here, just because that's part of the history. So, but they're nice and clean now, so we'll just pop it in. just gonna drill some new holes for nailing this. Actually, I can use that one. I'm just gonna add one over here. Each drawer had a different way to attach the bottom. So now they'll all have the same. I know you're making fun of me about my ball peen hammer, but I like this hammer, so you're just gonna have to deal with me doing this. And one more. Yeah, that's good. So the last thing I'm gonna do to these is add a slip it compound. This is for easy wood on wood contact so that the glides don't have too much friction, and then it starts wearing again, and along the side as well, just because the guide inside runs along. And I'll do this on the inside too once we repair the guides inside. And there we go. So all three drawers are good to go. I just got a little bit of sanding to do on the top of this one and from our plugs here, but the inside's all nicely put back together and looking good. Doesn't even smell anymore. Okay, so I've got everything stripped, and now I'm just going to turn my attention to the inside rails here. They're not as bad as I thought they were. There's actually only a couple that I need to add some height to. And now that the drawers are all perfect, it should be fine with a little bit of wear on some of them. But I am going to replace these because they're all kind of worn off, and when they're not a nice sharp edge, they don't catch the drawer front nicely, and it can slip back and sit uneven in the drawer. But before I take them off, I'm just gonna cut with a razor right where the drawer stop goes, so I put it back in the exact same spot. So I'm just gonna make a cut right in front of those on all of them, so I can get the alignment on the drawers just like they were supposed to be. Okay, so I've got some new stops cut, so I'm just gonna glue them and put them in place. I don't need to tack them down or anything, just like the old ones were. So I've got my cut line there. I'm just gonna line it up right to that line. All right, so we've got all the drawers working really nicely and the inside repaired. Everything is sanded and ready to go. We've got our leg repair down there that we'll have to do some work with. And yeah, it's looking good. So we're gonna be using Puritan Pine Stain from Gaudi, of course. The E is missing there because it's messy. And it's just a little bit of a medium brown color. And it'll hang up really nicely in all those pretty details, which actually stick out a whole lot more now that that paint is off. It's interesting how different they look. So I'm just gonna do a final cleanup on this piece and let's get some color going. Okay, so I've got the dresser all stained up here, and you can see the tops and the bottom drawer are pretty much not stained. I did put a stain on them, but they stained up really weird and dark, and so I took it off and I decided to just use tint on those instead of the actual stain. So first things first, I'm going to clear coat the whole thing and see where we're at, because when we have the clear coat on things, the color changes right away. And then we'll know what to do with these guys to make everything look a little better. This one's stained up actually light compared to the dresser, so we do have some color work to do, which is okay. So let's get a first coat on and see where we need to go. Okay, so we've got the first coat on, and we just need to warm up these drawers. The color did shift quite a bit, so that's good. But I just know now that this one's looking way too green, and so is this one way too light. So I'm gonna add a toner. I'm gonna use medium brown walnut. This is a toner I use a lot, and it's just gonna give that warmth back. I'm not sure if I'll need another toner. I'll let you know if I use another one. It might need a little bit of oranginess, which would be burnt umber, instead of this, which is a little bit more of a yellow, warm red-ish tone. This might be a little bit more in the burnt umber, just if I have to shift it that way. So I'm gonna give this a good coat and this a good coat. The other thing I knew I would have to deal with is these plugs here. I'm not sure if I care too much how they look. I would have to mix up a paint for these lighter areas, so I'm gonna see if I can do that before I tone, because that'll help to blend it in with the toner on top. And then everything else is looking really good though. So I got a coat in the drawers. They'll need 2. And yeah, everything else is looking really nice. Okay, so I've got some lacquer paint mixed with some toners here. And I'm gonna try to blend in this section right here, if I can get it to focus. And I'm just gonna paint it out with an opaque, not really opaque, it's a little translucent because I really mixed it, but kind of the same color as the background here first. And that's gonna dry. And then I'm gonna come back with a couple of graining pens just to hit the edges of this grain and this grain. But this one's kind of right in the middle of a very clear area. And I wish I kind of would have just used maple plugs, because these aren't really very nice in here. So I'm just gonna put it on pretty heavy and let it dry, and then come back and kind of blend it with some of the grain there. Okay, so that's nice and dry now. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of polishing with the Scotch pad here, just to smooth it out. And then I'm just gonna look at what's going on around it. And I'm gonna continue a couple of these lines right through here to really disguise the edges. Same here. This one comes right through. I'm actually gonna bring it right through this one. There's a couple of lighter ones in this area here. I'm gonna go really light and then just wipe away. A couple more. And then fill these in a little bit. Good. And then that's gonna get the toner over it. I'm just gonna lighten everything with a little bit of a buff to blend it in. Then I'll just shoot it with some toner so you can see how that's gonna blend in. Can't really see in the light here though, but that's kind of what we're going through. It looks like it needs a little bit more yellow. I might touch it with that, but that's kind of from far away on a different plane when it's going to be down on the dresser. Your eye is going to be able to, oh yeah, that needs more yellow for sure, carry through those grain lines. So let's add some more yellow. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, that's better. Help it to blend in a bit more. Yeah, that's better. It won't stand out so much. I'll keep working on it just to get it a little perfect, a little more perfect. But that's basically how we'll hide those. And there it is, all finished up, looking very pretty. Those beautiful carvings all over the front really stand out now, and you can really see the design of the dresser so much better. So we tinted the front drawers, so they're all cohesive with the frame now. Got that nice warm tone going through everything. The drawers are all working really nicely. And smooth operation for wood glides. We've got the feet back on the bottom, so you can see our leg repair there. I've kind of just toned it in to the leg, so it just fades away. They don't have that big giant piece of wood that they had sitting over there before, which was kind of clunky. So I can go right up against the wall now. Yeah, and top looks really great. Lots of character. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this one, guys. It's been interesting getting back at it after Christmas, and I have some really exciting news coming up. Just stay tuned. But thanks again for joining me on this project, and if you enjoyed it, you can check out our other videos. We have lots of transformations on the channel. And if you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below this video. But once again, just thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Cheers.